And now, Move the Sticks with Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks.
What's up, everybody? Happy New Year. Welcome to Move the Sticks. Buck, how are you doing, my friend?
Man, I'm good, DJ. I am happy and excited, grateful for a terrific 2024, but looking forward to everything that is on the horizon in 2025, particularly all the great stuff that we have been blessed to do. I just want to be able to express that gratitude that, look, we've been doing this for a long time, and at a time when the industry is topsy-turvy. Look, man, I'm blessed and fortunate to have such a great partner in you.
Well, I'm very thankful for you as well. And it's cool. One of the things, we both get to travel around in all these different NFL stadiums every week. And I'm sure you've experienced the same thing I have, which is you run into people all the time. Hey, love the podcast. We listen to the podcast. We listen forever. They'll reference something from a rookie draft. They'll reference something from one of the conversations that we've had. So it's cool when you know that people inside the industry are still tuning in.
I think that's the coolest thing. And DJ, I would say the coolest thing is like some of the young guys that are just into the industry, like talking about, man, I've been listening to your podcast forever and all of that stuff. And so it just kind of reminds me that this is not only where we express opinions, but it's an opportunity to kind of pay it forward and give back, to kind of teach some of the things that we've been taught along the way and kind of give it back to another generation of evaluators.
Yeah, no doubt. A couple things I want to hit on in this episode, Buck. We did some college football stuff yesterday. We'll, again, be getting to a lot more draft stuff as we go forward, especially once we finish up the regular season. We'll kind of turn the page a little bit, not only focusing on the playoffs, but also getting a lot more draft discussion in there. But I was looking at the playoffs as we stand right now, and these last few spots will be determined going forward. But I wanted to just talk to you about the different quarterbacks that we could be looking at in the postseason, and the stories there are fascinating. Let's start first of all on the NFC side of things here. So when you look at the NFC, as we sit right now, we got the big 1-5 game between Minnesota and Detroit. That'll determine who goes there. We've got Tampa Bay, we've got the Rams, we've got the Commanders, we've got the Packers, we've got the Eagles. So the field is pretty much set there in the NFC. Just some seeding to be handled there, particularly with what happens in that 1-5 game there with Detroit and Minnesota. Huge implications there. But I'm looking at it going, Detroit, Jared Goff, second team. Baker Mayfield he's been on multiple teams there with the Bucs. Sam Darnold, not on his original team. Matthew Stafford, not on his original team. You've got Philadelphia with a quarterback that they took outside of the first round. You've got Green Bay, who took a quarterback when they already had a quarterback in Jordan Love. And then you've got maybe the one that's different than everybody else is Jaden Daniels with the high pick, the second overall pick as a rookie. So really there's only, I would say, one traditional path quarterback, and that's with Jaden Daniels. The rest of them have come later or have come after they've been on another team.
Yeah, I think what's interesting and this goes all the way back to being in Green Bay with Ron Wolf, and he used to talk about this with Al Davis, and it wasn't just related to quarterbacks, but it was related to all players. And the late Al Davis used to always put a premium on pedigree. Where someone was drafted mattered, and it didn't matter if it flopped in their previous destination, but what mattered that the league thought highly enough to pretty much give a person a first round grade, because you know this, DJ, it is rare that someone is taken in the first round where the majority of the league doesn't have first round grades on them. There may be some prizes, but they're not these wide ranges. And so for Al Davis to talk about, if the league viewed this person as this type talent, you at least want to bring him into the building and kick the tires on him. New environment, new scheme, different voices may bring about the talent that led everyone to view him as that player. And I think with quarterbacks, it's very true. You just don't know how someone will fit into another scheme. And so you want to kick the tires and see. Maybe he performs better in our scheme than it did in his previous scheme. Maybe it's the right coach whispering the sweet nothings into his ear that allows him to unlock that talent. With a Baker Mayfield, with a Sam Darnold, with a Jared Goff even, we have seen in new environments, the player that many of us saw in college has finally been realized. And so it's a lesson that, look, just because it doesn't work in one place doesn't mean that we throw him out. Maybe he just needs a different destination with a different play caller to help him be the player that we envisioned when he was in the draft process.
Yeah, no, I think that's what a lot of teams are going to be trying to find in this upcoming offseason. We'll spend more time on that as we get into the spring. That's the quarterback side of it. Head coaching wise, in the NFC, 5 offensive guys, 2 defensive guys. And I say that while also, Dan Campbell's technically an offensive guy, but
Mhm.
he doesn't call the plays, and he's
Mhm.
designates that beneath him. So, but as you look at it, 5 offensive, 2 defensive guys.
Well, I mean, look, there's going to be a lot made of that, and with the play caller, and we've had the conversation here, and a little bit of debate about like you have the consistency in the play caller when the head coach is the offensive play caller. So the quarterback has the luxury of knowing that he is going to be in the same system for as long as the head coach is there. If you have a defensive guy, the coordinators may change, and that could impact the quarterback because of changing system, changing play caller, and those things. I think it's important that if you do have an offensive minded head coach, that the defensive coordinator is able to kind of act as the head coach of the defense. Now, that sounds crazy because it sounds like a Captain Obvious statement, but I want everyone to understand the inner workings of when you're the offensive play caller and the head coach, you spend the majority of your time in the offensive room. You may not install the plays, the coordinator organizes that and does that, but you spend a lot of your time and attention getting the offense ready. That defensive coordinator has to have a level of independence that he doesn't need to lean on the head coach as much to control that side of the team. And if you have a mature defensive coordinator that does it, he acts as the head coach of that squad. He'll run some things by the head coach, but he really has a lot of autonomy to kind of handle that group as it is. And so when you're the offensive coordinator, the most important hire is the defensive coordinator. And that's why you'll see young offensive minded head coaches have an older established defensive coordinator because you would like to be able to hand them the defensive thing and go with it. And so it's interesting to see that. And I'm saying this even though I guess KOC is young, but I just think the second time around when he got Brian Flores, I
Yeah.
think we've seen Kevin O'Connell go to another level because I don't think he has to worry as much about what the defense is doing because he has a former head coach and a really brilliant defensive mind handling that side of the ball.
And they have history with each other, going back to New England.
Yeah, they
So
see ball the same way.
yeah, they kind of were trained the same way. So, I think that that's a whole other discussion. I'm fascinated once we get to talking about coaching openings. Flores will be a fascinating case study to dig into. How he's grown and learned in different environments he's been in, and maybe he'll have a better shot at it the second time around. I want to do the same exercise for the AFC, and let's start first of all the quarterbacks. So if we're looking at maybe the only traditional route in the NFC being Jaden Daniels, 6 of the 7 as we stand right now, and that's the last spot is still to be determined, which I think it's going to be fine because it's 3 teams. You've got Denver, you've got Miami, and you've got Cincinnati. All 3 of those are first round quarterbacks. The other teams outside, Russell Wilson's the only non-original first round pick of the playoff teams in the AFC. Think about how Stroud high pick first round, Mahomes, Herbert, Josh Allen, Bo Nix, Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson being at the bottom of the first round, but all those guys, first round picks, homegrown guys.
Yeah, homegrown guys. And what would be interesting, and we won't do this now, but we can look at it when the playoff field is set. DJ, when we rank all of the quarterbacks, the AFC would be represented near the top of the charts in terms of talent, pedigree, and those things. So the NFC has been able to do it with recycled guys, but the AFC, you better have a heavy hitter. And some of that is just the nature of the conference, knowing that we always talk about you got to build your team to not only win your division, but to deal with the teams that are in your conference. And quarterback play is critical. And every quarterback that we talk about there, they have the ability to take over the game in a variety of ways. And so whether it's Joe Burrow playing the pass first point guard, the ultimate distributor with his Pat Mahomes and his creativity, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen doing it as dual threats. They all have the ability to put the cape on and to jump into their superhero versions of themselves. It just goes to show you that, man, it's coaching and quarterback. We can talk about a lot of different things, and Brian Daboll said this, and it's funny, he said it with Drew Lock. You have good quarterback play, you have a chance. And that is evident when we get into the postseason. You have to have great quarterback play to hoist the trophy. And these teams in the AFC, man, about as good as it gets when it comes to quarterback.
Yeah, my analogy is it's like going to a car lot, and in the NFC, they go, hey, the guy goes, hey, show you these used cars over here. We got a nice little used car lot over here. These AFC teams are like, whoa, look at these shiny new cars. We get these things 0 miles. Got no miles on that thing. That's a high sticker, but we'll take it. We'll take the new car.
I like the new car smell. I like the new
Yes.
car smell. Yeah, no. No one. I like my odometer under triple digits. I don't fresh off the lots. We don't want to have to deal with it. I know exactly what I'm getting. It's fascinating, and it when we get to the Super Bowl and we finally see the last two teams standing, and we talk about the quarterbacks and we talk about how they get here, and we talk about trucks and trailers and that stuff. Will the quarterbacks that are trucks get to the final dance, or will we have a trailer representing one of them?
Well, let's. Yeah, that's a great point. And the two different ways to roster build there. Let's look at the coaches here. This is the fascinating. So we talked about 5-2, right? Offense to defense in the NFC. Let's flip it over to the AFC. Tomlin defense. DeMeco Ryans defense. Andy Reid's offense. So that's 2-1. Harbaugh is offense, but doesn't call the plays. But so let's go 3-1. Baltimore, I'll go John Harbaugh. It was special teams, but also had a little defensive experience.
Yeah.
So I'll give that to the defensive side. So that's 4. Sean Payton offense, but then you've got McDermott defense. So there's more defensive head coaches in that side with married up with all the premier quarterbacks. So it's fascinating, man.
Okay, so maybe the trick is if I'm going to have a defensive side of the ball, I got to invest more on offense with the quarterback. Whereas if I have an offensive coach, I am saying, hey, you can fix whatever quarterback we bring you, and then we'll pour our resources into the other parts of the team. Because that would be the thing, because Kevin O'Connell taking a reclamation project. You talk about some of the other guys kind of working maybe with lesser talented guys at quarterback. Whereas the defensive guys like, yeah, give me the most talented quarterback. You just go and do what you need to do. You go doing what you need to do. And I'm going to figure out how to fix this defense and get us playing championship level ball on this side. And you just kind of make enough plays for us to win the game.
Which is kind of weird. You would think the defensive coach would maybe have the recycled game manager-esque quarterback. But no, the defensive coaches have the Ferraris. They got the Ferraris on offense. And it's the offensive coaches that are trying to make some things happen with maybe not the,
because maybe the defensive coaches are saying, yeah, I hear you playing with that lesser guy. Give me the guy that is really hard for me, that I don't want to face. And so it may be some of that, but
it's just fascinating. Some of it's happenstance, just how they ended up getting their guys. But it is interesting to see the AFC and the NFC literally polar opposites, quarterbacks and coaches, totally opposite. So it'll be fascinating to see how this thing shakes out. All right, Buck, it's time for Hot or Not, brought to you by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage. So looking at some guys who are hot right now, let's switch over to the running back position. Coming off of a week where, the weather gets worse. We always talk about the run game, particularly as you're getting ready to go into the postseason. And how about a couple of these teams with the studs right here at the very top? Saquon Barkley goes for $167, 31 carries. Derrick Henry, 27 for $147. Absolute workhorses there at the very top. Jaden Daniels at the quarterback position comes right in behind them with 127 yards. So all three of those teams going to the postseason, all three of those teams showing they can get it done on the ground as we get into that time of year.
Yeah, I think we're back at the point where we talk about the value of running backs. I think running backs are certainly valued. And I think what we're looking for at the position, there was a time where we were talking about the back by committee situation, let's split the load or whatever. I think teams are increasingly seeing the value in having a legitimate workhorse. When we were in the league as scouts, that's what the league was about. It was about having the one guy that you could kind of hitch the wagon to, and he was going to kind of carry you to the promised land. You were in Baltimore with Jamal Lewis. I spent time with the Carolina Panthers when it was first Stephen Davis, then it was Deshaun Foster, then it was D'Angelo Williams, but it was a legitimate running back that was kind of leading the way. Not necessarily the driving force of the offense, but you had a bell cow. We're back to that. And when you throw in the Green Bay Packers and what they were able to get with Josh Jacobs, the running game is essential because what it does is it lightens the load on the quarterback. It doesn't diminish the importance of the quarterback, but it means that I don't need him to be Superman 17 games out the year. Maybe 4 or 5 games, we have to put it in his hands and ask him to do special stuff. And it allows them to kind of keep control of the game, preserve your quarterback to when you need him, and ultimately a more balanced attack gives you an opportunity to have more consistent winning play when we look at the way those teams are constructed.
The other one I should mention, who had a big game on Monday night, was Jahmyr Gibbs with the Lions. And Jahmyr Gibbs,
Wow.
that's somebody, like, if you look at key players in the postseason, especially think about this, if they can beat Minnesota and get the bye, you get, to me, like a guy like that, fresh legs. Whew, that's a key player for them.
The key player for that. And look, when I remember when Jahmyr Gibbs runs across the ticker that he is drafted for the Detroit Lions, and just the collective when he was taken, because no one necessarily saw him coming off the board at that point. But Brad Gibbs and those guys understand the value in a running back, and we're seeing these very talented running backs, how they can change the offense. And we've said the common denominator, you can be a terrific guy toting the ball, but you also need to enhance the passing game. Jahmyr Gibbs does that. And that speed, that explosiveness that he displays when he gets in the open field, tough to deal with. And you're right. If he gets a week off and he has some fresh legs in the tournament, man, nighty-night.
Yeah, speaking of the running back position, and you're right, Brad Holmes, tip of the cap for the job that he's done. But a couple interesting notes here on the AFC side of things. It looks like Pacheco is going to be fine once we get to the playoffs, and that's a lot of rest for him to recover because they're rest everybody. Really it's going to be a rest versus rust conversation with the Chiefs because they have that Christmas Day game, so then that gives them extra rest to get to Week 18. Week 18, not going to play anybody against Denver. Then you're going to get the bye. That is a long layoff there. Rest versus rust.
So now that you say that, DJ, because of that, and we know that Andy Reid always does really well after buys, he might play his guys in Week 18. He may play them a little longer than we think. I don't know if it'll be.
Man. I don't know if he is.
I don't know if it'll be a hat and jacket game. That's a long time to be off.
A very long time.
I mean, that's a long time for the rust to kind of sit in. Maybe preseason game. Maybe they played a half. Maybe you give him a half of work.
Yeah,
you don't think?
I guess we'll find out. I don't think so, man. I think he thinks he's got a veteran group, and that at this point in time, just get off your feet. Get Chris Jones off his feet. Mahomes has had ankle stuff. Like, just get those guys
it's gonna roll out
very, very fresh. So, I mean, that's going to be fascinating. But my point was that Pacheco will be back. The other thing is another team and that I see every week with the Chargers, J.K. Dobbins makes a major difference for them. And the benefit of having a running back get hurt in the second half of the season, you get him back healthy, and then I'm watching him. I'm like, man, he looks fresh as a daisy out there running around.
I think we had this conversation. Maybe we had the conversation if they go to 18 games, how you just have some designated weeks where like, hey, look, week 11, you're off. Yep. What, coach? No. You're off. This is a load management week. We're going to make sure we get you back. We're going to bring you, because there is something to having your guys fresh and ready to go down the stretch. And we can talk about changing your practice times and how you go about practicing those things. But a full week of rest where you're kind of relaxing, you're off your feet, you come back recharged and ready to go. If you have a mature team, you certainly can do it. And so when you talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, DJ, you're probably right, because if you sit down, you only can sit down 6 to 8 guys. You sit down Travis Kelce, you sit down Pat Mahomes, you sit down Chris Jones, maybe DeAndre Hopkins. You know what I'm saying? You pick and choose which veterans you get off the field. They still are good enough to win games. And so maybe that is a situation where you just rest the old guys, let the young guys go happy.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see how all these teams handle this. There's a lot of teams faced with that decision this week. Do we want to let guys go hard, or we want to try and pull back a little bit and get ready and fresh and ready to go? So, man, I'm excited for it. I'm excited to be able to see the finished field. When that happens, we'll be able to come on here and do some real deep previews on those games. But that was this week's Hot or Not segment, brought to you by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage. Store more and do more with your data. Try them for free at wasabi.com. Buck, happy New Year to you, man. Excited for what's in store here on the show as we get into the spring. The playoffs are great. We'll have the college games to react to, as well as get a chance to really flip the calendar here and get towards the draft.
Yeah, man, it should be a lot of fun. This is what we look forward to when it comes to football. We're in the postseason. Everything matters. There's nothing like watching how people perform when they get to the single elimination tournament.
Yep, man, we'll have you covered right here. Appreciate you guys hanging with us. We'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.